She has killed before. She will kill again. That is what the tribe of Enoch made her for. They gave her a blade when she was 12. They gave her a mission when she was 20. They gave her a Nephilim when they ran out of men willing to die. The giant had been taking people for weeks. 3 men, gone, no bodies to bury. She went into the valley alone. She found him. She killed him. She came back. And the people she saved had already decided she knew too much to live. The valley has no name. In Enoch's tribe, places that take lives are not named. Naming a thing gives it permanence, gives it the right to exist in the mouth of a child, in the prayers of a mother, in the memory of men who might otherwise forget to be afraid. The valley is called the low place. Everyone knows which one. Serah knows it better than most. She has crossed it 3 times. She came back each time. The men who crossed it with her the first time did not. She does not speak of this. The tribe does not ask. She is outside her tent, sharpening her blade in the last of the evening light, when the elder's messenger finds her. He does not meet her eyes. He says, "The circle is waiting." 3 elders, 1 torch held low, the smell of myrrh burning in a clay cup, the incense they use for ceremonies, for funerals, for decisions already made. The Nephilim has taken 3 men this week, 2 shepherds and a water carrier, all from the north edge of camp, all found in pieces near the river bend where the valley is deepest. The tribe has not sent anyone to collect what remained. Azael, the elders call him, a giant born of the fallen ones, the watchers who descended before the flood and left behind children that were neither human nor divine and belonged to nothing. Azael is the oldest of what remains. He does not wander. He does not raid. He selects. That word, selects, sits in her chest like a splinter. She must find him, enter the deep valley, kill him, return before the new moon. The elder chief holds her gaze for the first time. Simple, he says. She has heard that word before. It is always said by men who will not be going. She looks at each face in the circle. She is searching for hesitation or guilt dressed as urgency. She does not find it, or she does not yet know how to recognize it. "I will leave before dawn," she says. She returns to her tent. She sharpens the blade until the edge could split falling water. Outside, the tribe's fires go low, one by one. She listens to them die. She leaves at the hour when the sky cannot decide what it is. No torch, a torch announces. The path down is loose rock and dry scrub, familiar under her sandals, in the way that only dangerous places become familiar, not comfortable, but known. She descends in silence, one hand trailing the valley wall, feeling the stone change temperature as she goes deeper. At the bottom, it is cold in a way that has nothing to do with the air. The river finds her before she finds him. She follows the sound east toward the second bend. The valley floor is flat and pale in the weak starlight. She smells him before she sees him. Not blood, not rot, something older. Wet stone that has not seen sun in a century. Cold that does not belong to the season. Then she stops. Azael is large in the way that forces her to recalibrate the distance between herself and the rock wall. Twice her height, shoulders that interrupt the stars behind him, hands that could close around a man's chest and stop it. But he is not raging. He is kneeling. Before him, arranged with the patient precision of a man who has done this many times, are bones, not scattered, not piled, each one placed in deliberate relation to the others, a pattern she cannot read from this distance, but can see is a pattern. And he is murmuring, low, rhythmic. Below the sound of the river, but present underneath it, she holds still. She listens, not to the rhythm, to the words inside the rhythm. Names. He is reciting names. She recognizes the first one, a shepherd, taken 6 days ago. She attended the morning. The third name stops her breathing. It is the name of a man who is alive, a man who sat at the edge of the elders' circle this evening, a man whose eyes shifted too quickly between the others when she accepted the mission. She counts 7 names before she makes herself retreat, 3 dead, 4 living. She turns this over for a long time. Then she goes back down. The second night, she positions herself closer, close enough to see his face when the starlight catches it. It is not the face of a beast. The proportions are wrong, the jaw too wide, the brow too heavy, the eyes set at an angle that belongs to nothing she has a name for. But the expression is the expression of someone performing an obligation, honoring something, keeping a record no one asked him to keep. She watches him add 2 bones to the arrangement. He sets each one down. He murmurs the name twice before releasing the piece, as though repetition confirms something. On the 3rd morning, she goes upstream. She does not hurry. Patience at its most precise looks like nothing from the outside. She does what she came here to do, and then she waits. The 4th evening, Azael walks to the river the way he has walked to it every evening, the same path, the same unhurried pace. He kneels at the bank. He drinks. An hour passes. Then something changes in the way he holds himself, the shoulders rounding, the head dropping by degrees, one hand going to the ground beside him. Not to reach for something, to hold himself up. By midnight, he is on his side in the shallows. The river moves around him. She approaches at the first gray light. She circles him twice before she comes close. His eyes are closed, then they open. He looks at her with full recognition, not the recognition of a predator identifying prey, the recognition of someone who has been expecting a specific person and has now confirmed their arrival. His lips move. She leans closer than she should. He says one word, a name, clear, unambiguous, the clarity of a man leaving something behind deliberately, because he knows he is leaving and knows what he is leaving it to. She knows that name, the man who sat at the center of the elders' circle, the man who held the torch, the man who said simple. Azael's eyes close. They do not open again. She stays beside him while the light comes up. A tool, she thinks, does not recite the names of the people it was used against. She does not let herself finish that thought. Not yet. She cuts the right hand at the wrist. Clean. The Gera is what they asked for. Proof of completion. She wraps it in her cloak. She begins the walk home. The whole way back, she turns the elder chief's name over in her mind like a stone she is not yet ready to look under. But she knows she will look. The tribe is awake when she arrives. The camp center has filled the way it fills when something is about to happen, and the people who know what it is have arranged themselves around it. She walks to the center. She unwraps the Gera and holds it up. Silence. Not the silence of shock, not the silence of relief, the silence of people who already know the outcome of something and are waiting to see how long it takes her to understand it. She lowers the Gera. She searches the crowd for a single face that will hold her gaze. She finds none. The elder chief steps forward. He looks at the Gera. He does not look at her face. He tells her she has done well. He asks her to surrender the proof. He tells her to rest and await further instruction. She holds the Gera one moment longer than is necessary. Then she sets it in his outstretched hands. She goes to her tent. She does not sleep. She hears them 2 hours before dawn. Not loud. They are speaking at the volume of people who have calculated the risk and concluded it is acceptable that the woman in the tent nearby is either asleep or irrelevant, and that in this situation those two conditions are equivalent. She presses her palm flat against the goat hide wall. The elder chief's voice, the eldest of the circle, the youngest elder, appointed 2 seasons ago, whose appointment had seemed, at the time, unusually rapid. What she hears is not complicated. Azael has been known to the elders for 11 years. 11 years. She was 17 when they settled in the valley's shadow. She remembers the first meeting in which the elders described the low place with the gravity of men carrying genuine fear. It was not fear, it was management. Azael did not select his victims the way a predator selects, following hunger, taking chances. He was directed. The elders knew where he denned, they knew what he responded to. And a giant who had lived beside human settlement for 11 years, without destroying it, had reasons for his restraint that had been leveraged. The 3 men taken this week. The shepherd had spoken at the water distribution dispute 3 months ago. The water carrier's brother had been refused land rights, and the water carrier had made his opinion known in language that travels through a camp like smoke. The 3rd man had found something. She catches only the shape of it from the fragments she hears, and all 3 had been preparing to present it to the full assembly. The tribe's oldest law allowed any member to do this. They had been preparing for 2 weeks. They had been taken in 1. She understands now what Azael was doing in the valley with his careful arrangement of bones and his recitation of names. He was keeping the account that no one else would keep. And she understands what she was sent to do, not to protect the tribe from a predator, but to close an account that had served its purpose. Azael was finished. A giant who knew too much was a liability that needed to be removed by someone credible, deniable, someone the tribe would believe because she had done it before and come back. She was the instrument. The voices lower. Footsteps move away. She takes her hand off the hide. There is a print of her palm in the dampness of the goat skin. She watches it fade, the outline of her hand disappearing from the edges inward until the surface is as though she had never pressed against it. She picks up her blade. She waits for the light. They come for her at midday. 4 men, the full elder circle. Ceremony is how the tribe makes individual decisions feel like collective ones, the language, the posture, the arrangement of bodies, so that what is happening appears to be the outcome of ancient law rather than the preference of men who needed something done and are now settling the account. She is to be consecrated to silence. The phrase is ancient. It means exile without name. She will cross the eastern boundary before sundown. She will not return, and the tribe will not speak her name after she is gone. They offer it as an honor. She lets him finish. Then she turns to face the gathered tribe, the women at the edges, the children held still by hands on their shoulders, the men standing in the middle distance with the stillness of people who have been told that stillness is what is required of them today. She looks at the faces she has known for most of her life. The woman she helped deliver her 2nd child 4 years ago, on a night when no one else was close enough. The man she pulled from the river during the flood season. The older woman at the back who she sat with through 3 nights of fever, when there was nothing to offer but presence. She looks at them. Then she turns back to the elder chief. She holds his gaze until he meets hers. She speaks into the morning air. 1 sentence, at the volume of someone addressing not 4 men, but everyone within earshot. Which of you was the first to call him? The silence that follows has a different texture, not the silence of waiting, the silence of something landing, weight arriving suddenly in a place that had not prepared to receive it. No one answers. She did not expect an answer. The sentence was not a question. It was a stone dropped into water that had been kept still for 11 years. The elder chief recovers. She can see the machinery of it, the squared shoulders, the breath drawn to the correct depth, the face reassembling itself. He tells her quietly that she will cross the boundary before sundown. She nods. She picks up her water skin and her cloak. There is nothing else here that was ever really hers. They escort her to the eastern boundary in the late afternoon light, 2 young men, young enough that they were not present 11 years ago, young enough that their role today is purely functional. They were handed a task without its history. She walks. The eastern boundary is marked by a line of stones set into the ground at knee height. She has crossed it before, coming and going, without particular feeling. She steps over it. She takes 10 more paces into the open ground beyond, until what she does next is clearly her own choice. Then she stops. She stands facing east, where the desert opens into the flat, pale distance. She breathes. She lets the last days settle into their proper arrangement. Then she turns. She kneels, not at the boundary line, near enough that what she is about to do will be visible from the camp. She finds a piece of basalt, flat, palm-sized, dense enough to hold a mark. She sets it on her knee. She takes out the blade. Metal on stone is slow. Each stroke removes almost nothing. The mark accumulates grain by grain, the way the truth accumulated, not in a single revelation, but in small increments, each one adding to the others until the weight became something no one could ignore. She carves the elder chief's name first. She takes her time. She wants the letters clear, not for artistry, but because clarity is the only thing she can offer the names she is about to place beneath his. They deserve to be legible. They were made illegible once already. Beneath his name, she carves the shepherd, then the water carrier, then the third man, whose name she knew less well before this week and knows completely now, then the 4 living names, the ones Azael recited that belonged to men still breathing, still inside the boundary line, not as accusation, as record. When she stands, her carving hand aches, and the light has gone the color it goes at the last moment before dark. Not gray, not brown, the color of ground that has seen everything and decided nothing about it. She carries the stone back to the boundary marker. The 2 young men watch her approach. She sees the calculation in their faces, whether what she is doing falls within the category of things they were told to prevent. She does not cross the line. She sets the stone face up on the boundary marker, the large flat stone that every member of the tribe touches when they leave, and touches again when they return. She looks at the 2 young men until they will not be able to say, later, that they did not see her face. Then she turns. She walks east. The desert is cold and open and entirely without comfort. She does not need comfort. She carries something warmer, not hope, not belonging, not the warmth she spent years trying to earn in a place that had already decided she was a tool. Something older, the knowledge of what she did, not what was done to her, what she did. She found the giant in the valley that had no name. She listened when no one else had listened. She understood what the bones meant. She came back and dropped a stone into water that had been kept still for 11 years. And before she left, she made sure the truth had a place to exist that was harder to destroy than memory, harder to exile than a woman, harder to silence than a name. A tribe can erase a person. It cannot erase stone. They built their own boundary markers from it. They knew this before she did.